you see that?
Yeah, you electrocuted a bus and almost killed these people.
And then I caught it!
You leave tall buildings in a single bound.
What's going on, everybody? I'm here to do a movie review for Shazam. Now, I know y'all are looking at this video like, Taurean, Shazam doesn't come out until April. Well, I was fortunate enough to get the early access pass, or should I say early access tickets, thanks to Fandango. They actually, I'm actually a part of their website, and they had early access tickets that they pretty much were giving out to people to go see the film 2 weeks in advance, and here we are. So I was able to see it 2 weeks early. So I will not have any spoilers in this review, for the simple fact that for those who do want to see the film, they can do so when that time comes, because they only did it for 1 day, which was today, which is March 23rd, and after that they'll take it out of the theater and they'll bring it out nationwide on April the 5th. So Shazam, aka the real Captain Marvel, in case you know a little comic book history, Shazam was originally called Captain Marvel until Marvel bought the rights to have that name because of the Marvel brand, and then they gave Shazam his new name. So basically, this movie is about a kid, a 14-year-old kid by the name of Billy Batson, who is pretty much a runaway. He has never really had a stable life. He's never been in a stable environment, you know, for all his life, because he's been on a mission to find his mother, because when he was younger, they got separated from each other at a fair, I guess you could say a fair type amusement park, theme park type of thing, and he's been trying to find his mother ever since, but had no luck. So he ends up getting a chance to stay with this family in this group home. He comes across this kid named Freddy, and they become like really cool. Of course, Freddy's like he's like all into this comic book stuff and everything like that, and he just I guess you could say he's a little eccentric, too eccentric for Billy's taste, because Billy's not really all into the comic book superhero type of stuff. And then, you know, one day Freddy gets into it with these guys, and then Billy has to save him. And what ends up happening is there's this wizard played by Jaimin Hansu, and shout out to Jaimin Hansu. He's collecting a Marvel and a DC check all within a month, and he basically is this wizard. He's the last of his kind, and he has to give his powers to someone he deems a champion, someone who's worthy to wield that particular power, in order for him to have his powers continue to be used by somebody else who he feels should wield that power, and it's a very extreme type of power. And I think what's so dope about this is the fact that all he has to do to use the power is they say the name Shazam, and he just turns into Shazam, and it's like an on and off switch. So he says Shazam to turn into Shazam, and he says Shazam again to turn back into Billy Batson, and I think that's really dope. And for those of you a little bit more comic book history, Shazam and Superman, like on the power level, and I could be wrong, are almost similar. So Shazam and Superman can almost pretty much fight on the same type of level. Shazam is that powerful, and he is that strong. Now, what I like about this film is that it takes a break away from the usual dark theme that DC has been known to do, such with, you know, Justice League and Man of Steel and Wonder Woman and Aquaman. It takes away from the dark theme. Even though Aquaman had a little bit more comedy in it than the other ones did, it still had a dark element to it. This one, the only type of dark tones that it really had to it was when it was dealing with the villain, which was Dr. Sivana, which I'm going to get on him in a second. He was the only one that really had a dark theme around it. As a matter of fact, when the movie got started, it started off on a really dark note. I was like, whoa, where are we headed with this? And then, of course, it got lighthearted, but it also had some very good moments as well. Now, Dr. Sivana, I will say this, DC knows how to do good villains. That's one flaw that I would say Marvel has an issue with, is creating good villains. They have good heroes, but they really lack in the villain category, whereas DC, they can, I guess, depending on who you talk to, they can have good heroes and villains, but their villains are really, really good. But Dr. Sivana, he's basically this guy who has a, you know, he has a lust for power. He always tried to seek the approval of his dad and his brother, but he was always cast aside and cast out. I guess you can say they saw him as the black sheep, even though he was just a kid and he was trying to, you know, find his way. But when, you know, one thing leads to another, like he was the type of person that was at he lusted for power so much that he would do almost anything to get it. And I don't really want to spoil how he got that particular power, because like I said, if you want to go see the movie, you can go ahead and see it. And he was a very good villain. Like, he pretty much honed what a comic book villain should be. Now, I don't know everything about Shazam. I really don't. I remember when they first announced it was coming out, I was like, there's actually a superhero named Shazam. It made me think of Kazam, you know, by Shaq back in the day, but those are two different characters, two different entities. You know, Shaq's Kazam was a genie, and Shazam, you know, he's a being that wields mystical and magic type powers, which is something else that DC has dove into, because I don't think they've touched on a superhero that wields magic. So they've touched on a superhero that can live in water. They touched on their female superhero who is like strong and, you know, things like that. Of course, we all know about Batman and we all know about Superman, but we never really touched on a hero that wields magic. So that's another element on top of them throwing a lightheartedness in this as well. Your kids, if you have any children, your children will definitely enjoy it. It has some lighthearted, you know, stuff in there. A lot of comedic moments that pretty much stuck. And there's also some appearances in this movie. I'm not going to say who. And also some people in this movie I didn't even know was going to be in this movie that kind of shocked me when I saw it. And I'm not talking about character-wise. I'm talking about acting-wise. When I saw this one person, I was like, I didn't know they was going to be in the movie. But then again, I never looked at the acting credits on IMDb to see exactly who was going to be in the film. So all in all, I would definitely give Shazam a 8.5. Hell, probably damn near a 9 out of 10. I really enjoyed the movie. It's DC's only film that's coming out this year, because, you know, Wonder Woman was supposed to come out in November, but they decided to push it back to June of next year because they wanted to release it as a summer film, and they didn't want to release it at a time when there was a lot of other movies going up against it. They wanted to make their money, which I can't even fault them for. So Wonder Woman 84 will be coming out next year instead of this year, and Shazam pretty much has to hold their own against all these other Marvel movies that are coming out, especially since Shazam comes out on the 5th and Avengers Endgame comes out on the 26th. So when the movie comes out, it has 3 weeks pretty much to make as much money as possible, because when Avengers Endgame come out, it will definitely, you know, dethrone it and cut in there. And I think that's another reason why they did this early access thing, which I can't even fault them for. And I think they only had 2 showings today, 4 o'clock, which I just left out of, and then they have a 7 o'clock one, which is about to start in a few minutes. But I really did enjoy the movie. I will say, though, there was some slow moments in the film that I wish they could have picked it up a little bit, but I understand that this is the first film for Shazam, and with the way it ended in the post-credit scene, and there are 2 of them, they are definitely going to be setting up for another one. Now, I don't know if they're going to dive into this particular character involving a certain former wrestler, hint, hint, but if they do bring him in as this character, Shazam has a lot to work with, because this character, this villain, is not only one of his main villains, but probably one of the best villains of all time, no matter what comic book genre, I mean, not genre, but brand, Marvel or DC, period. And ironically, this villain drawn up looks like the person in real life, and it wasn't on accident. Like, it just kind of just happened. It wasn't intentional. But y'all let me know what you think about my review of Shazam down in the comments. Y'all let me know, will you be going to see this? Will you take your kids to see it? I know some people said that they will go see it because, you know, they said Shazam is the real Captain Marvel. I've heard that so many times. We forgot to talk about the main character of the film. I don't know, maybe it's because I was still like getting off the hype of me watching that movie. But yeah, Zachary Levi, in my opinion, did a very good job playing Shazam. Shazam's character is meant to be a funny, comedic character while still having heroic elements to it. And I like the fact that even though he appears as a man, he still has the elements of that belongs to a kid. Like, it was certain scenes that was in the movie that he did, you know, he's enjoying the hype and, you know, he's enjoying the fame that he's receiving, but sometimes it can be a bit excessive with the character, and, you know, sometimes some people will see that he's doing a little bit too much. But that's what happens when you've gone pretty much unnoticed all your life. You were never like really the popular person, And when you finally get some notoriety, sometimes it can go to your head and maybe you do some extreme things that you shouldn't be doing. But with him being a hero, he has to live his life out there in the spotlight, you know, so people can actually see him. Now, this part that I'm going to tell you about is not a spoiler because it actually did. If you watch the trailers, it actually did happen. And that was the part when he was shooting the zaps of lightning and one of them hit the bus. And, you know, the character Freddy was saying, you know, you just zapped this bus and could have killed all these people. And he said, but I caught it. And while he did catch the bus and he did save the people, that was a very reckless act that he did, but he seemed very excited about it. And, you know, that's scary. You know, even with him being a superhero, you have to be very cautious about the things that you do, because even though you are saving people, you have to be careful that you're not injuring people in the process. I know that sometimes there's often sacrifices that have to be made, but at the same time, you have to be mindful of your surroundings and the elements that you are engulfed in. But all in all, Zachary Levi played Shazam really good. A lot of people were kind of worried how he was going to be. Some people had an issue with how the suit looked, you know, because, you know, they said he had to bulk up a little bit, but they said that he didn't really fill out the suit. I don't think he filled out the suit either, but it worked, because you got to think, this is the mind of a 14-year-old kid. How in his mind would he envision a superhero to look? Almost like an action figure. Like when we were younger, when we thought of superheroes, we didn't think of a scrawny person or anything like that. We thought of a big, muscular, massive person who was probably so huge that they could lift up a damn tank and without breaking a sweat. So, you know, that's how he probably envisioned how his character to look. I also read that, I think they said that he also envisioned that of how his dad will look, because the Billy Batson character never met his dad, so maybe he envisioned that that's how his dad looked. But all in all, Zachary Levi, in my opinion, played the character of Shazam very well. I can't wait to see what's going to happen going forward. Like I said earlier, there will definitely be a sequel to this movie based on how that first post-credit scene came about. Now I am done with the review.